Welcome to Veranda Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Christine Mills. Before I get started, I'm asking you all please to subscribe to this podcast. It'll mean a great deal to me, and to share with those who you love around you. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you about when is a good time to take on financing. When is a good time to take in financing in your business? And when I speak of financing, I'm speaking of traditional financing with banks, government, venture capitalists, or partners. So there are some key areas that you have to investigate for yourself to make sure that you are ready to take on financing, outside financing. And one is you have exhausted all other areas of financing, such as close friends and family and your own funds. So I always believe the first round of financing should come from you. And then afterwards is friends and family. And because businesses may take some time to work out some kinks, and it's so much easier when you don't have a large amount of debt staring in your face. And the business idea that you might think of today might not be the business idea of tomorrow. So it's a lot easier for you to start off with less strings attached while you're trying to work things out. Number two, make sure you have good credit. It makes it so much easier when you have good credit and you're borrowing money. You're not going to have high interest rates. You have more bargaining power. You're approaching the table in a different way. So borrowing money is a lot easier with a good credit history. You could go to annualcreditreport.com to see what your credit report is. You could go to Equifax or TransUnion or FICO to see what your credit report is and just gauge, like, what do I need to work on? Sometimes you might find bills that you forgot that you didn't pay, or you're like, oh, I got to deal with that. Deal with that first before you approach any bank or anyone for money, because that is going to be an issue. Number three, have a low or lowered your debt ratio. So a debt ratio is a formula that banks use to assess if you are really low on cash, if you have too much debt that you're trying to manage and you're having a hard time managing. So debt to income ratio is debt divided by income. So for you to find your own, you divide your monthly debt by income, your monthly income, to see what your ratio is. And the rule of thumb is the lower, the better. So you don't want to exceed about 40%. So if you if your debt is $5,000 and your income is $10,000 for the month, that's a 50% debt to income ratio. So you always want it to be below 40%. And if you have it like 5%, even better. Number four, you are comfortable with and can manage loan payments. So I know you might get excited. Wow, I got $100,000. I got $200,000. I got $300,000. You know, with those amounts of money, you have to make loan payments, usually every month. So getting the loan is one thing. Paying the monthly payment is another. So make sure you are comfortable with being responsible for this debt. No matter how cyclical, seasonal, or any downturns your business may have, be sure that you can manage it. Because if you don't, a lot of debt comes with a lot of conditions. So if those conditions aren't met, it might not be good for you. So make sure that you can actually afford this debt. Number five, you don't want to use your own money. You know, some people I've seen come and they're like, I don't want to use my own money. I just want to borrow money, especially if I could get a low interest rate and I'll free up my own cash. So if that's you, more power to you, and you could get very low interest rate, use somebody else's money to build your empire if you can. And number six, where you need to go requires a whole lot of money. So I'll say this. I find that right now, there's a big push to encourage businesses to be debt free. I get it. I get it. I totally get it that sometimes you want to be debt free. All the times you want to be debt free. But there are industries that are very capital intensive that unless you have a lot of cash, it's going to be very hard for you to do it debt free. And that is part of your business, managing debt. So someone who is building skyscrapers for a living is very hard, or doing construction is very hard for them to be debt free. Someone who buys like trucks and tractor trailers and equipment rental business, it's very hard to be debt free. You might be debt free later on, but to get it up and running, you're going to have to get debt. That's why they call it capital intensive, meaning much money is needed on the upfront to really make the project go through. So when you're in those types of industries, just calculate at the beginning that you're going to have to start with debt, unless if you come across a lot of money or you have a lot of cash in your disposal. So I'll recap. The best way to know when it's time to take in financing is, one, you have exhausted all other areas of financing, such as family and close friends and your own funds. 2, you have good credit, meaning about 700 and above. 3, you have a low or lowered your debt ratio. Remember, monthly debt divided by monthly income. You want that debt to income ratio to be about 30%, 40% lower than that. Number 4, you are comfortable with and can manage loan payments. So you know that for the course of the loan, you are responsible for those loan payments. Number 5, you don't want to use your own money. I get it. If you could get a very low interest rate, use it and keep your own cash. And number 6, where you need to go requires a lot of money. Capital intensive projects require a lot of money, and that's part of the way you do business. I hope that was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook at Veranda Entrepreneur. And be sure to subscribe to the Veranda Entrepreneur podcast so you'll hear more of business tips and interviews, as well as our latest segment, the Business Crush segment. Take care and God bless.